next Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Next Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
This call is being recorded.
Hi, hello. It is Josh Bowe, one of the many editors over at MavsMoneyball.com, coming to you with another victorious, yet probably maddening edition of Mavs Moneyball After Dark. The Mavericks hold on against the Brooklyn Nets, 96-94 in Dallas, in one of the most wild-ass games I've seen this season. That looked like the Mavericks were finally going to pull away and have a comfortable fourth quarter victory for the first time all season. And that just didn't happen. The Mavericks decided that on this 8:45 tip, they were going to make us watch all the way to the final buzzer and make us pay attention all the way to the final buzzer. And it was a pretty maddening final 5 minutes or so. As you can tell, since I'm starting the podcast, I'm hosting. We are giving Kirk the night off from this podcast because, since again it was an 8:45 local start, that's kind of late for us. He wanted to hop into the Spotify green room and be able to start it right away because Kirk basically lets everyone talk, which is one of the best parts about it. But that also means he sometimes hosts that thing for like 3 hours. I don't think he wanted to stay up till 3 a.m. tonight. So I'm joined by Matthew Phillips, one of our senior staffers. Matthew, how you doing?
I am wonderful. I am just happy that we get a win because at the end of the year, when you're worried about seeding, they don't give you any style points.
Exactly, and the Mavericks are 6-3, and they probably are not close to the league leaders in style points because of their 9 games, 8 of them have been clutch, and I feel like a majority of the 8 have been them with a fourth quarter lead that turned into a clutch game. So it's been pretty nerve-wracking. I mean, they had that Thunder game, which was literally one of the most historic collapses ever. They have this game, which we're going to get into. I mean, the Pelicans game was pretty crazy as well. So let's just get into it. We probably have to start toward the end. Kevin Durant, he had made 62 consecutive free throws, and he needed to make 2 more after the Mavericks fouled him while he was shooting a 3 with the Mavericks up 3 with 6 seconds or 5 seconds left. He misses his first free throw of the season, and then, of course, misses the second one on purpose to see if they can get an offensive rebound. The Nets do get the offensive rebound, and Royce O'Neal kind of has a massive brain fart and just jumps into 3 Mavericks with no idea what to do and throws the ball away, and the Mavericks win. And again, it feels like this game, all these games are like following the same formula where Luka does everything. The Mavericks kind of have a lead. Then the fourth quarter comes around and things just don't look too good. And then the Mavericks find a way to pull it out. What were you thinking in the final moments of this one? Because we really could talk about anything in this game.
Yeah, so with the end of it, it actually reminded me a little bit of the 2006 finals. Obviously, much lower stakes, but Dirk had made a bajillion free throws in a row, and then everybody, or I don't know, some people forget that that after Wade shot free throws, Dirk got to shoot free throws, and he finally missed one. And I forget which game it was. I think it was either 3 or 4. And so he finally missed one. And that's kind of how it felt like for Durant, because he's like, it was just automatic. In my head, he was already going to make them. And I think a little bit that applies to the play after that. I know they knew obviously that he was going to miss the third shot on purpose, but it's a lot of times that teams just don't, that play is never as good as you think it is. I mean, we had the Josh Smith thing in the finals where he dribbled out after LeBron missed a free throw. Like, it's just, it's weird for teams there. You can't really hold too much on people there. So for the Mavs, I mean, I just want to focus on the positive parts, which, I mean, the first Mav positive is obviously going to be Josh Green. I mean, this is the Josh Green game. His true shooting percentage was over 100 again, which like that's it's always, you had a good game when you have a true shooting percentage over 100 and you scored in double digits. But,
Yeah, I mean, I think his career high was 18, so he didn't get there, but he had 16 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, perfect 5 of 5 from the floor, 2 of 2 from 3, 4 of 4 from the free throw line.
and he pissed
This is
Kevin Durant off.
He did. He pissed him real off. He got into his head. He played with boundless energy, great defense. And yeah, Durant was going through a screen. Josh Green set a screen on Durant, and Durant kind of rolled through him, and there it got chirpy, and they were kind of talking back and forth. And it's like, holy crap! Like Josh Green is bowing up to Kevin Durant. That kind of shows the confidence he's playing with right now. And yeah, that was a crazy game. Yeah, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
No. So yeah, he the deal with Green, I mean, obviously the shooting has been, he's still not taking enough, but he's taking more than he has been. And it's been a revelation this year. He's been good. The offensive improvement's been good. That is obviously what is going to make or break his NBA career, is how consistently he makes shots. Just because no matter how good you are defensively, like Michael Kidd-Gilchrist was an amazing defender, and the Mavs picked him up out of nowhere because nobody wanted a wing who shoots 20% from 3 and won't take them. The deal with him though, what I feel is also important, and it's kind of gone under the radar, is how much he's developed defensively so far this year. Because while he was his rookie year especially, he was just basically doing cardio. Like, he was very busy. It's very eye test appealing for, you feel like he's doing a lot because he's running around doing all that, but his defense wasn't very good his rookie year, and it was more average last year. And I think from my eye test, I have not done enough analytical stuff to look at the numbers and everything, and I would severely question their value after this many games defensively anyway. But from my eye test, he looks much better defensively, and that is a really big thing for him too, is that I do believe he has become legitimately a plus defender, and that matters.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, he's cleaned up a lot of the rookie mistakes that he made. He's much more sound. He's playing kind of within the team concept, I think, a bit better. I think he's better at the point of attack, because I think in the first 2 years he got beat off the first step dribble a lot, with maybe because he was maybe closing out a little too assertively. Because I mean, again, he's
His
a pup.
aggression is more, his aggression is more properly channeled now, is what I would say as far as that, and that applies defensively a lot. In that when he's out there at the front, he knows where to be, he knows what he can do, and he's more used to NBA players. Like, that's another thing, is that he hasn't played a ton of basketball, and especially not coming in. So he's adjusted, and there's the biggest leap in basketball there is going from college to the NBA. I mean, unless you go from a lower level than college to the NBA, obviously, but that leap is just gigantic. And you go from, people that he could probably play like that on and not get beat, to NBA guys, which every NBA ball handler was just going to beat him when he was attacking like that. And so now he's adjusted, and he really has been a legitimate plus. And that's probably going to be important because, I mean, I don't like to prognosticate about injuries that I have no training to do so, but I would imagine that Tim is going to be out for a little bit with a hip injury with the wet floor thing.
Yeah, that was tough to watch. He basically did the splits, making a cut into the paint. He was down. I mean, he was in a lot of pain. He had to kind of gingerly walk off the court. So I have to imagine he's missing a handful of games, like hip strain. I don't like I'm with you. I don't know a lot about injuries to diagnose it, but I know hip injuries are nothing to sneeze at, and you have to treat those carefully because those can linger and drag, and if your hips, but like, you can't really do anything if your hips aren't good. You can't, you could play through like a rolled ankle, but like if you've messed up your hip, you need to get it right before you get back on the floor. So unfortunately, I wonder if this is going to mirror what happened last season, where the Mavs kind of started to take off after Tim got injured. I mean, if Josh Green is playing like this and he gets to soak up some of those Tim Hardaway minutes coming off the bench, I mean, it could, it's a shame for Tim Hardaway, and he's trying to bounce back from last season, and injuries suck, but the Mavericks might actually come out of this playing a little bit better.
Yeah, and going on that, again, I'm certainly don't want to wish ill for Tim, and Tim was actually playing
Of
well. This
course.
was his better games of the season.
He was in the process of his best game, I think.
But yeah, because he was 4 of 8 from the field and 2 of 4 from threes, and an efficient 11 points, and the Mavs were +6 when he was on the court. But I'm actually curious. Green played 27 minutes tonight. It will give him more minutes going forward. But one of the bigger things, what I'm curious to see is I'm hoping that it helps Wood get back to where he was at a little bit at the beginning of the season, just by looking for his own shot more. I think we all got so excited by his passing, and it was kind of like a shiny new toy because it was something we hadn't really seen him do before. And he lost a little bit of aggression. Like, he hasn't been, if you remember, like the Suns game, he passed well and everything, but he shot, I think, 12 free throws in the Suns game, and he came out just getting to the line at will because people couldn't guard him. And now he's looking to pass. I feel like he's looking to pass a little too much, and I feel like with Tim gone, they're really going to need him to score a lot on those second units. So hopefully those extra shots will help get him going.
Yeah, and then hopefully they just involve, like, I'm not saying involve him, like he's still getting. It's not like he's not getting shots, but run some more pick and roll with him. Like, I feel like the bench unit really isn't giving him the ball, on the move a lot. He seems like he's getting a lot of isolations and mid post ups, which is fine. Like, he can do that, obviously. But I would love to see a little bit more pick and roll out of him. I feel like that's, again, I don't know what it is about Mavericks and talented offensive big men, but they can't seem to run enough pick and rolls with him. But I would like to see that more in Tim's absence for sure.
I would actually like to see them do that, and I'd actually like to see them run some inverted pick and roll, like with him and Spencer inverted.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Or Lucas screening for him, because he has the ball handling and passing chops to do it. And I mean, I don't know that I've ever really seen him do it consistently, but it's just, given his skill set and given the size and the skill set of both of the Mavs point guards, I feel like they should be big enough to set screen. I'm always excited whenever I see Luka or Dinwiddie screen, just because it generally good things happen from it. And so I would like to see them add that to the repertoire. We got to go a little negative here. This was the first really bad Spencer Dinwiddie game of the season. He had 2 points on 1 of 8 shooting. He just wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like, this was the type of game where, and I don't mean this on a commentary of the quality of the deal, but when refs are letting them play, when they're not letting the offensive player do the whole, like, I'm going to go full Derrick Henry and get to the rim and run through people, but also call a foul on the defensive players, that's rough for Spencer. When you can't get foul calls by initiating your own contact, that's always going to be rough for him. And this was that kind of night. Like, it felt like several times there were times where he just made up his mind, I'm gonna get to the rim and get to the free throw line, and he just couldn't get to the free throw line, and that's always going to be a bit of a struggle for him.
Yeah, and that's his game. He's career 38.5 free throw rate this season so far with the Mavericks through 8 games. So not including tonight's game, but I can't imagine this game's going to help. He didn't shoot any free throws, so it's only going to go down. But he entered this game with a 12.7 free throw rate. Just for context, in the 23 regular season games he played with the Mavericks last year, he had a 45% free throw rate, and that was huge for him. He was a straight line drive kind of guy, and he was the only guy on the Mavericks, because Luka, Luka's Luka, but Luka does everything going to the basket. But like, one of the things that kind of differentiated him from Jalen Brunson is kind of a bit more methodical, running the pick and roll, and he kind of likes his little mid-range shots and floaters because he was really good at them. And Spencer was more of a kind of line drive, north-south kind of point guard. And the Mavericks didn't really have anyone on the roster like that outside of when Luka would do it. But Luka can't do everything. But I mean, maybe we're seeing that this season. So it's been kind of tough for Spencer this season. He's not getting the whistle. I feel like he could be maybe a little bit more assertive in getting to the basket, or at least maybe being more of an assertive scorer. I feel like like that lineup they ran where it was like Spencer, Tim, Josh Green, I want to say then Maxey and Dwight Powell. That lineup had some really good moments when Green was making plays and making an impact. But whenever they weren't on the break or they were in the half court, I felt like Spencer deferred a little bit too much to Tim in those lineups. And Tim, I know he played a good game before he got hurt, but he was still putting up the ball a lot. I mean, he had 8 shots in 14 minutes. So I would have liked, they kind of stalled out a little bit at times with that lineup. And I would like Spencer to kind of be like, all right, we need some scoring. Like, I know I'm here to run some offense, but like we need some buckets. Let's go. And I feel like they're going to need a little bit more of that going forward.
Yeah, when they do that, when they do the lineup without Wood, especially, like Spence has got to be like, hey, this is, if we like run, yes, but if they stop, then it's got to be him
Yep.
looking to get to the rim and attacking. And I mean, and I think he's actually done a good job of that. Like the Mavs' best stretches recently, and I'm not looking at this statistically and anything, this is just from my eye test, has been, other than against Toronto, the early fourth quarters. Like that's when they built the big lead that they blew against Oklahoma City. That's when they played well tonight to build the lead. When they did stuff, it's been that energy lineup early in the fourth quarter. They've turned teams over. They've got out in the break. Green's been a big part of it, but Dinwiddie's also a part of that. Like he's a little more willing to run than Luka, or not a little more. He's a lot more willing to run than Luka. And they've gotten out and run. They've done a good job. I also want to include in that lineup, I have been very tough on Maxi's defense. I have not been impressed with Maxi's defense so far this season. I've been very impressed with it in the past. I've been very high on it, but I thought that he's struggled so far defensively this year. I thought he had a very, very good defensive game tonight. I thought he had like one kind of bad defensive possession early, but after that, I thought he was last season Maxi, basically. Like he was everywhere. Which is funny, the stats don't show that because he didn't have a steal and he only had one block. But I thought this was a clinic in defensive positioning and helping without fouling and just being able to be everywhere. So that was a big thing for me, because that's something I've been a little concerned about, is just because he is so important to this team as far as all of the things that he can do. And I kind of feel like it's like a guy in a subway or in a submarine with a hole in it, just poking his fingers through there. And I feel like kind of with putting Tim back in the rotation and Woods in the rotation and then still having Luka and everything, he's just a guy that's running out of fingers to poke in the holes. And so I do feel like he did a good job tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually kind of shocked that he only had one block when I checked the box score before we started recording, because he protected the rim very well tonight. He was very stout at guarding the rim and forcing misses that I honestly thought he had like 3 or 4, like at least 2 or 3 blocks. So yeah, I definitely agree there.
And then
go ahead.
Yeah, and then the other thing we got to go back negative is Reggie Bullock. Man, December or January cannot get here fast enough.
Hey, you wrote that post too, didn't you? About
yes,
historical.
Yes, I wrote it
shooting?
Last year. It's the highlight of my career at Mavs Moneyball, because Jason had mentioned it, which is a pretty big deal for me. But man, it's everybody that is listening to this that is a Mavs fan, don't give up on Reggie Bullock. He will figure it out. He does this every year. He struggles early. Everyone says how terrible he is. He's not that terrible. He is still going to be an extremely important part of this team going forward. The defense has still been fine. It hasn't been quite as airtight as it was during the playoffs last year, but the defense has been fine for the most part. And then it will get better as the shooting gets better as well. Just wait. Trust me, the calendar will turn. If you don't believe me, go to his basketball reference page and change. The line I used in the article last year is that his shooting percentage is below Russell Westbrook's in the first 2 months of the season and about the same as Ray Allen's after that. So it's coming. Don't give up on it, but man, is it rough to watch until it gets there.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. And I've seen a lot of calls, they want Josh Green to start. They don't sit Reggie until until January. I mean, there's a couple of reasons why that doesn't work. First, this is an NBA 2K. Like, you have to, like, Reggie is an important part of the team. Like, you have to manage. You're not just managing like players and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Matching personalities, and you want to keep your locker room tight. And Reggie is absolutely a big part of this locker room. Another thing is Green is getting there and he's improving, but Bullock is basically their primary like guard defender, because Dorian is guarding the bigger scoring forwards, and Bullock is usually the guy matched up against the most aggressive ball handler on the team, because you don't want Luka doing that, you don't really want Dinwiddie doing that. So they asked Bullock to guard a lot of point guards and to guard a lot of dribble penetrators, because otherwise the starting lineup doesn't really have someone like that. Green could do that, and he's been guarding well, but again, that's a, I kind of just like what they're doing with Green. It seems to be working. Let's just keep doing that. And yeah, like we'll just have to wait for Bullock shot to come around. Another thing I wanted to say, I'm going to write about this after the game, but I think we need to mention it before we go about Josh Green. The one thing we didn't talk about is, boy, the Mavericks figured out Josh Green screening for Luka in this game. They went to that play often, and it felt like it resulted in points. Just about, if it either resulted in points or an open shot, just about every single time they ran that play. And what was really nice about it is, one, that Green is setting such good screens for a player his age. Like, that's clearly he's put in the work, and that's nice from a young player that struggled in his first 2 years. Like, hey, I'm gonna learn how to set screens better because like I'll be able to get on the floor if I'm like that's really awesome for a player that was struggling his first 2 years in the league to like improve in kind of a non-flashy way, because that's going to get you minutes. And it's really good because he's shooting from three. I mean, he made 1 3 off a pick and pop, like top of the key, that I was like, holy crap, I can't believe he shot that, because he would not have shot that a couple years ago. And he made good reads as a roller, and he had a couple of nice passes where he kind of rolled into space. Luka found him, and he was kind of doing the Draymond Green light, making some passes and reads 4-on-3 defense. So we've been talking about Green's intuition as a passer since he's been drafted here, and how that's kind of like a surprisingly great skill for him, considering most raw 3-and-D wings coming into the league don't even pass the balls nearly as well as Green can at times. So if they can take advantage of that, that's going to be a lot of fun. What do you think? I thought that was like crucial for them tonight.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely. So there's a couple of things about that. One, he's a very thick guy. Like, he's a big dude. Like, he's not big as in height. Like, he's 6'5", whatever, something like that. But he is, like, if you think of the guy that I've always compared him to physically is Andre Iguodala. And he's a lot like that in that he's just a bigger guy. Like, he's not one of the littler guards so when he sets a screen, he can set an effective screen that is actually a screen, as opposed to a means for himself to slip or do something like that. And then two, like you said, you mentioned that he makes plays and he's comfortable doing that, and he has a lot of flair. Like, that's the thing is, aside from Luka, really nobody else and Wood has some too. But aside from them, like Spencer, when he passes and everything, a lot of it's more, I don't know if mechanical is the right word, but that's what I'm going to go with for right now. It's more like an if-then statement where, like, it's like, if I do this and the defense does that, then I do that. It's kind of like, so it's like an if-then computer statement. And so all he does is just, he has like the rote reads, whereas Josh Green occasionally does some just crazy off the wall stuff, which is partially because he's athletic and he can, that athleticism unlocks potential to do things that less athletic people don't have, because part of it is like he can float, he can move really quickly laterally, all of that good stuff. And then he sees stuff. That's the passing gene is just, it's something that you either have or you don't. You can get better at it, but I mean, like, some of the wild stuff that he has is just, you either feel comfortable doing that stuff or you don't. And then finally, the last thing is, like, when I was growing up and playing basketball, when you were younger, one of the first things we were taught as kids is, if you want to find a way to score, if you haven't been scoring, go set a screen. Which the guy that is the best example of that in the league is Steph Curry. Steph Curry sets more screens than just about any guard in basketball, and has for a long time. And obviously, I'm not at all comparing Josh Green to Steph Curry as basketball players, as I don't think you could name two players with less in common. But it's a truism that remains, that when you set screens, it opens up things. It's like an unselfish thing to do, to set screens, because you do it to help somebody else, but it also ends up helping yourself because it puts you in better positions.
Yeah, totally. And it's just, again, for a young player like that, it's good that he understands what it's going to take for him to get onto the floor. And I know, I mean, he wasn't drafted with any preconceived notions of being like a star type player or a guy that's going to handle the ball a lot. So, I mean, I'm sure he knew that when he was in the drafting process, that he was going to have to do the dirty work to get on the floor. But still, not even then, with those circumstances, guys in this league don't always embrace that. So he's embracing the dirty work. He kind of is starting to remind me of like 6'5" version of Dwight Powell in terms of like his energy, chaos, and just kind of like that understanding of this is my role. It's not a glamorous role. It's not a fun role, but it's going to get me on the court. It will eventually get me paid if you keep it up. He could make good money in this league if he just keeps going down this path. So that's great to see. I'm glad that the Mavericks let him ride for 27 minutes. He's going to definitely be playing a lot more regardless of how much Bullock is playing because of the Hardaway injury. So that'll be good. Otherwise, the only other thing left that's probably a downer to talk about. Not downer, but just like these box scores, Matt, are just freaking hilarious. I don't know.
2 points from 3 starters combined.
Yeah.
I know McGee is a starter in name only because he only played 3 minutes. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at. It's a little rough there.
Yeah, we were talking about it in Slack, and we were kind of like this is working. Like the Mavericks are 6-3, but they keep winning these close. Like every single game is close except for the Memphis game, and there are a lot of circumstances for why that game wasn't close. Otherwise, all these games are close. Like Luka is starting the season like almost no one else scoring wise in NBA history. Outside of Wilt, literally no one else has started a season scoring like this, like Luka has, and they're just not getting any separation from these teams. And it's like Luka is scoring between 33 and 40 points every single night this season so far, and the Mavericks still have to claw their way over the finish line. Luka still has to play almost 40 minutes. Like these guys are still playing big minutes, and like I'm just wondering, like, is this sustainable? Like, because eventually Luka is gonna play a game where he like, and I don't want the anyone to think I'm like Luka slander. Like he's gonna play like a good game, but only score like 27 points. Like it's gonna happen. I don't know.
Is
maybe
it?
Luka is. I know.
Is it?
I don't know. It's crazy. Maybe not. I don't know.
One, the craziest thing about this is that Luka had an extremely efficient 36 point, 11-22 from the field and 5 of 9 from 3. And this is really the first we've mentioned him in this podcast.
I know.
Like, if that's not taking greatness for granted, like and there's an extent to, the numbers come from the usage. I get that. But part of the reason that he gets the usage he has, like, and the reason other people don't, it's really, really hard to handle that kind of usage and stay efficient. Like there's an inverse relationship between volume and efficiency. And that's the thing that's been crazy for him is in the last 3 games coming into this game, he was shooting like 64.5% and averaging 37 a game. Like that's unheard of. And on the one hand, I don't know that anyone could truly handle this usage over the course of an entire season. Like, there's just limits about that. On the other hand, our old friend Iztok, who writes for D Magazine now, and in my opinion is just if you're going to read Mav stuff and you're not going to read Mavs Moneyball, I would definitely say go read Iztok. He's so smart. But his statistical model that he predicted for Luka's peak was basically what Luka is doing right now. And it's crazy to think he can keep it up for the year, but by the same token, everything Luka's done has basically been crazy relative to what other people have done. And he came into camp in shape this year. Like he's in shape. And it's amazing how good he is. And I don't know. I do think it's weird that that the joke I've made for a long time now is that he's kind of like a 2K player with a limited amount of slider points, and that he can only be good at threes or free throws at one at a time. Like he can't be good at both of them, which he was fine on free throws today. He was 9 of 12, which is 75%. But he started to slide the 3-pointers back up and the free throws back down. And it's just, it really is just a pleasure that we get to watch that, man. At times you just got to stop being worrying about writing about the team and doing all that. It's just, man, this guy is a truly special talent. 20, 30 years from now, when you're talking to people, this is going to be one of the people that you remember that, hey, we got to watch him. And for us as Mavs fans, we get to watch every game he plays, and that's a treat. And so, like, that's just, for me, that's the takeaway from that. And I don't want to cut that part off, but I can't believe I haven't mentioned Dorian Finney-Smith because he had a fantastic game as well.
Oh yeah, he was huge. If he doesn't,
hit 18, which for Dorian, like that.
That's basically an automatic Mavs win, right? I don't know what the stat is, but when he scores like 15 or more or something like that, they're almost like undefeated. And if he scores 10 or more, they're really, really good. They have a really, really good record. But yeah, I think the thing that was nice for me the last 2 games is I've seen him make some okay plays that weren't just like spot up threes. Now he's 4 of 10 over the last 2 games from three, so that's obviously good. But he's been doing a couple little bit more and more. Like I think you see it every season. I think he gets a little bit more comfortable attacking closeouts, getting closer to the basket. I mean, he got to the free throw line 6 times tonight. I know 2 of them were intentional foul, but even then, like 4 free throws is a lot for him. He doesn't get to the free throw line almost ever because he's usually just shooting spot up threes. But
and especially in this game where like free throws were hard to come out for both teams, and I do not mean that as a ref complaint because the Mavs got away with a lot of fouls on the other end too. But this was a very physical game that not a lot of free throws were shot in.
For sure.
He was really good.
Yeah, he's doing what he needs to do. I mean, he's another guy, like he shoots terribly in October, and then November he's much better, and then December he's once he gets to November and it's November, he's usually I think he's career 35% in November, and he's like 28 in October, so he'll be fine.
Think he also really likes the KD matchup. Like I think he likes competing with KD. Like obviously, I mean, there's not anybody in the league that can stop KD. I am not quite a pure Durant hater, but I'm not a huge Durant fan. But that man is just amazing at basketball. And on the net side, the last thing I've really got from this game is it's not even really news, but there's been some small Ben Simmons talk, and I know a lot of the Mavs Twitter fans and everything are, should we take Ben Simmons? Absolutely not. Unless they are willing to give up like all of the first round picks forever. Ben Simmons is the worst contract in basketball right now. Aside from everything else, the man just doesn't move right. Like his back's injury. He's a 6'10" guy with a kinetic chain injury. I joked about this in the Slack, but there's a possibility as many Mavs games that I go to, if they really do talk about, that becomes like actual news that they're going to do it, I legitimately may go picket and walk around the American Airlines Center with a sign that says no big men with kinetic chain injuries. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he missed a whole season with a back injury. I mean, that's not.
And then had a major surgery on it. Like, that's the thing is, I know some people, and at first I was kind of one of them, thought that the injury was more of a conspiracy theory and he just didn't want to play and whatnot. Like, no one is faking a major back surgery. Like, that's not a thing.
Right. So, yeah. And that's like one, like, I know knee injuries are not good, but like we've gotten to a point, where where the medical science has gotten really good at getting athletes back on the floor. But like back surgeries, man, I mean, any NBA player or professional athlete that has back surgery, like
they're not the same. They're just not. And for him, especially, who relies so much on his athleticism, there was a play tonight where he had Maxey boxed out and he went to go get a rebound. And like, I think he vertical jumped about 1.5 inches.
Hey, it looked like me.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, man, that's rough. I was like, and I mean, I know Maxey was kind of leaning on him and whatnot, but which I'm sure with a back injury that doesn't feel good. But
yeah, I mean, someone I saw on Twitter, someone posted like, man, it wasn't that long ago, but like, remember Ben Simmons in Philly? And like, I mean, the guy got up and down the court and ran like a gazelle and got above, and he played above the rim like so much. Like he was a really big finisher and dunker, and he was just so explosive. And you just if you just watch a 5-minute highlight reel of his time in Philly, and you watch any minutes he's playing right now in Brooklyn, I mean, it's obvious. Like he's in quicksand.
Yeah, he doesn't look like, he's not the same physically. Like we can talk about he won't take a jumper and everybody can worry about that. And that stuff's its own issue. And and I'm not downplaying those issues. And like if he was still like his apex self, you would have an argument. But he is physically not the same guy. And so it's just the Mavs have gotten in trouble before taking on the idea of someone. And the idea of Ben Simmons is far and away better than the actual Ben Simmons. And for his sake, I hope he gets better. But that is not a risk I would like to see the Mavericks take.
Right. And back surgeries, injuries, those don't get better over time. So I wish all the best for him. But yeah,
I just meant to get better as in like quality of life, not
Exactly. All right. Well, I think that's about all we have for this game. Again, we talked a lot, and I love that we talked for like 20 minutes before we even got to Luka. Like you said, it's just freaking crazy. He hasn't scored less. He's been 31 or better in every single game this season. It's just wild, become commonplace. But that's all we got. Mavericks are 6-3. They finished off the homestand nicely. They've recovered pretty well, despite the fact that they're still kind of Jekyll and hiding during every single game. But hey, 4 wins in a row, 6-3 is a lot better than the alternative. So at least they can figure some stuff out with a winning record on a winning streak. That's a lot more fun than trying to figure stuff out when you've lost 4 in a row. So Matthew, thanks for hopping on again, man. I appreciate you jumping in kind of the last minute today.
All right. Thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, just glad they won. 6-3 is a lot better than 5-4.
Hell yeah, it is for sure. Well, that's going to do it for us. Mavs Moneyball After Dark. This is Josh Bowe with Matthew Phillips. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time. Again, Mavericks defeat the Nets 96-94. Mavericks are 6-3 this season. Goodbye.